My purpose is connected to helping people see themselves, to helping people heal once they see themselves, to connecting people with one another and building community. We're in an immense age of information, privy to way more than we need to be and way more than our nervous systems can handle. I not only survived, I walked away from what could have been a very catastrophic car accident. Looking back at moments where I'm just so grateful to be here, and I have my moments where I forget the honor, the joy, the privilege of being alive. And being able to live out my life in this way. Our body stores it all, the trauma and the joy. What you're able to do is establish a baseline for yourself.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Stephanie Marie, and I'm on a mission to spread hope, sharing people's stories to encourage, inspire, and empower you. Today, I'm so excited to welcome you, Mourhia Wright, actor, director, producer, speaker, and creative entrepreneur from San Jose, California. She's the founder of Wright Productions, NAACP award-nominated filmmaker, host of the Inside Out podcast, and the creator of the Amazon Prime series Love My Roomie. Mourhia is on a mission to empower people to reconnect with their voice, their creativity, and their purpose through storytelling. I had an amazing talk with Mourhia, and I know that you will really enjoy listening to this. I also have some amazing guests coming on the podcast in the upcoming weeks, so subscribe to stay updated with everything. And so without further ado, let's begin. I am so excited about today's episode. I'm so excited to meet you. You're joining from California. Thank you so much for here and doing this.
Of course, I'm happy to be here, Stephanie.
I want to start with the fact that we're both PACE alum, and that's how we met, through our PACE alum community. I'm really excited to dive into your work. You know, something that I think when people hear the bio that I just read of you, I think the main thing people ask is like, how does she do it all? You wear so many different hats in media, storytelling, production. I'm excited to dive into all. Your journey is just fascinating. So can you tell us about your journey and like how that led you to where you are today?
So, oh my gosh, about my journey. Okay, I'll start with the story that I love to tell people. Fun story. You probably don't remember this, but there was a thing called the Burger King Kids Club. Did you ever hear of that?
Well, I did hear something like that.
So back in the
I remember that.
90s, and probably the 80s as well, there was Burger King had what they called the Burger King Kids Club. They had like little postcards essentially, and you could just like put your information and sign up. Now that I think of it, back in the day, I feel like we just like openly like you would put your like credit card information in. Or I wouldn't, parents would.
But now it's like crazy.
We just like mailed it off. Like I don't like, was it even in an envelope? I don't even think it was. But anyways, so in any case though, I took one, I really wanted to be on commercials. And my parents are from Gary, Indiana. I don't have people in my family that I know of, and definitely not at that point, that had been in the entertainment, media, arts. And so not from a career standpoint, people did it, for fun. I really wanted to, and I didn't know how. And my parents moved to California in 1984, right after my brother was born, because my dad was in the Navy. So I had asked my parents if I could, and they didn't know how to. I wanted to be on commercials. And so I took one of the postcards the Burger King Kids Club provided, and I hand wrote them a letter in pencil on lined paper in 5th grade. I was like 9, and I introduced myself, and I said that I really wanted to be in commercials and wanted to be an actress. And they mailed me a free 1-year subscription to Burger King Kids Club, which is not what I wanted. What's cute is, obviously, there was some adult in the space that read it and thought it was so cute, because you had to pay to be a part of Burger King Kids Club. They thought it was so cute that they granted me, a membership, but that was not what I was looking for. I wanted to be a commercial. So that was the start of it. And then here and there, I probably did like literally like 2 or 3 theater-esque camps. Not a lot. They were very expensive. My parents at that time were still building financially. They had 3 of us, my brother, my sister, and I. So that wasn't really the most feasible thing. And so ultimately I would write for church plays. Eventually, when I got to undergrad at Santa Clara University, which is a liberal arts school, I was a poli-sci major, and I realized I could just take any classes I wanted. Well, I just didn't take any government classes. I was taking theater classes. And that's how this all started. It's like,
we didn't have like a minor or like at the time, right?
No, I was nothing. No theater. And like, this is the craziest thing to think about, because Santa Clara is an expensive school. It's a really good school. And it's kind of wild that I was just like, I'm not going to take any poli-sci classes. My parents think I'm going to law school. I'm just going to take courses for theater. And I did. And I ended up mid-sophomore year receiving a scholarship through the theater department. Obviously, the caveat was I had to change my major to theater. So I did. And the rest is history.
That's amazing. I mean, I just like have this vision of like you being in what you say, 5th grade, and like that fire under you of like, I'm gonna write someone. Like I just like, I can't even believe that. That's amazing.
I graduated with my BA in theater, right? In 2009. And then in 2013, went to grad school, PACE, Actor Studio Drama School. So I moved to New York and I pursued my MFA there. While I was in grad school, after the first, so PACE is on semesters for those that don't know. So after the first semester, we were on holiday break and they sent an email, the program, and they're like, we don't have enough writers in your cohort because the actor studio is comprised of writers, directors, and actors. It was just too many. It wasn't balanced. So they asked actors, not directors, but they asked actors if we wanted to apply to submit for consideration to be writers. I did. And I ended up being, I did it immediately too. I was on a temp job. That's that winter break, but in office, I remember, and I just submitted. And so I ended up it's not called a double master, but it was. I studied playwriting and screenwriting full time, and alongside acting. So when I graduated, I had a portfolio and I had no actor's reel. That's how I began producing film.
Wow, that's amazing. Like, I love how you like that, that interest sparked like when you were younger. And like you always remembered, like, I'm going to seize that opportunity, like whatever comes before me. Like I really love that. Like,
and so to answer your question directly, now that I took you through the journey, so that was literally a decade ago that I graduated with my MFA. Crazy. So when I graduated in 2016, that is it. And so funny telling you this story right now because I'm in this really transitional space in my career. And so this is probably the exact conversation I need. It makes me a little emotional because I'm like, like that 10-year-old-ish. I was about 10. That was now, 29 years ago, 28, 29 years ago.
Wow, no way.
Yeah, and I'm like, she had a dream, and it's so fun. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna show you something. So I just eyed it, and so I'm thinking like,
oh my goodness, that's where it all began.
I'm thinking this is about, let's see, my sister. Oh, it says 93. So then I was 5 going on 6. So this is about still 5 years before that moment. But like this little girl loved TV, loved to write. I had imaginary friends. And so, no, I haven't been on a commercial yet. But you know what, Stephanie? After this call, I'm going to submit to some commercials. I'm so serious.
Honestly,
I took a lot of 9 to 5 jobs.
You know what? And I think that speaks to like a lot of people who are in transition. And then it evolves. And then you see where like life brings you, like that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that too. And they say to like leave a picture of your younger self on your desk. Have you heard of that? Like they actually say to do that because they're like, you see who you're making proud, like your 10-year-old self or like your 8-year-old self. They say, leave it on your desk. And even like when they say like when you have all those like negative thoughts come up, that look younger self, and it's like, would you say that to your younger self? No. So it's like, so many people are like, are in that transition. Like, that's really what inspired me to start the podcast because I was in a transition myself and I was like, I want to try different things. And, I love how you seize opportunities at hand. You love trying new things. You love, trying different spaces. I know that a lot of people are going to resonate with that. So many people are going through a transition.
There's a lot of people going through transition. It's so funny you say that because that's why I started my podcast in 2020. I was going through yet another transition. And so that's how Inside Out Podcast started.
That brings us to Love My Roomie, which is your series that you have on Amazon Prime. I'm sure that that 10-year-old girl that you showed in that picture is like just so proud, beaming at you that you released something that's on Amazon Prime for the world to see. And, there's a lot of stories about young adulthood, right? Like many people are trying to portray this like weird transition period, right? Like, trying to find yourself, but many of them is more the fun, the chaos side of like the teens. You're really portraying like the identity crisis, the relationship conflict people go through and like resolving that, like finding who you are, finding who your friends are. You're even bringing up topics like mental health. So I really want to talk about like as a filmmaker, as a producer, what went into that? Because so much goes into portraying big topics like that.
So as everything, I kind of have to set the origin. So Love My Roomie is based on a short play that I wrote in grad school called Expulsion, a 10-minute play. Edward Allen Baker, my playwright professor, God rest his soul, we always talked about our lives in playwriting class. And he had a way, because he's a playwright, of like using those conversations to get to know us more. And turns out it also inspired a task he gave us, which was to write a 10-minute play based on a prompt he gave you. No stopping, just write. And the prompt he gave me was about roommate drama. And I had really experienced roommate drama, which he knew because we always talked about our real life in class. Turns out he gave each of us 3 writers a different prompt based off of what some sort of drama that we had vented about in class. We didn't know that, right? Until we read it, until we were all like, hey, these are all different prompts, and hey, you know. So I called it Expulsion. It was about 2 roommates getting evicted, and it was quirky. And honestly, Stephanie, I think I want to shoot that. It produced plays, and I did events. I never produced film. I didn't know film. And we didn't learn film at the Actor Studio. We learned technique. We learned the method. And so I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't like the way it turned out. And this guy, his name is Brendan, shout out to him. I haven't spoken to him in years, but he's an amazing cinematographer. And he was like, this doesn't look like a film. It looks like maybe a show, a web series. And I was like, man, I wanted it to be a film. So I knew I needed to reshoot it. So we started to create little shorts called Love My Roomie, because there's a line in the film where one of the characters says, I love my roomie. And it was like, let's just make little shorts. And those will be little promos of the film as backstory to hook people into the campaign. Takes a very long time. It becomes a full-time job, at least a part-time job, for however many days you run a campaign, which usually goes into anywhere between 30 to 60 days. Decided to expand Love My Roomie and to get into the psychology of these quirky characters. So Love My Roomie took approximately 5 years to fully make. It came out in December 2020. And so yes, those who do the math. And so I wrote more, and then we remotely filmed some scenes in New York and some scenes in California, and I directed it remotely from my laptop in New York. Yes, it was during the pandemic. So I just released as a gift, as a 5-year celebration gift on YouTube for free. I don't know how long it'll be on there, so watch it now. And so to your question about exploring mental health, I'm a method actor, right? So I'm trained to go deep into the psyche. Also, I'm just a curious George kind of girl. So I'm always curious about what makes people tick, the why. And I would say method acting definitely kind of solidified that into my process as a creative. So yeah, I naturally was drawn to these topics that were before their time. People were not interested in seeing women, specifically Black women, being, being facing alcoholism, depression, the conversation around family. And so because of that, when it came to Love My Roomie, it was no stretch for me to want to just dive into those topics. I just wanted to tell the truth. It wasn't meant to be like this big statement. I wanted something that I felt explored deeper into who these characters were, but also who we all are, which is why the tagline is what's behind the mask, what's behind your mask. And it was just, the tagline is what's behind your mask. I was just curious what's behind.
Something really interesting that you mentioned is that back then, so when you were making, back then, like it wasn't that long ago,
but like a decade ago, okay.
I said back then, it wasn't that long ago, but like 2016 feels like, it's just like, it feels like a different time. It was, I don't really remember as much because I was like really young at that time, but I don't really remember. But the part that you said that's really interesting to me is that it wasn't normalized conversations. Like right now, it's like, mental health every day on my feed. I don't know if that's just because I love psychology, but on my feed, I'm always seeing psychologists, therapists. I'm always hearing people talk about it. It's normalized, like the conversation. Doesn't mean that there's not still stigma. There definitely is, but it's like, it's more normalized for people to say it. and to talk about it and their experiences and stuff. And people want to hear their experiences. But
Mhm.
like you said, like in 2016, kind of like right before the pandemic, and then you were filming, kind of like finishing up. And the poor thing that you said about the mask, I think that that's so interesting because that's such a that's such a deep analogy because I think
Mhm.
every person, whether or not you realize it or not, like when we walk out of this, out of the door, and I think we have to face that reality, like what kind of mask am I? How am I showing up? How am I showing
Mhm.
up for others, for myself? Or, like, am I being true to myself? And I
Mhm.
think that that really like naturally kind of flows into the topic I really wanted to talk about, which is back to center with you. And like also, I really want to get into this because this is such an interesting topic because what I'm really hearing is that so much goes into like I'm a movie lover. I love watching films and movies, but I have no idea about everything that goes into it. So this is
Mhm.
really amazing for someone who is a creative and is looking into that path. And so if anyone is
Amazing.
listening and is like is interested in this side of the creative sphere, I feel that this is so amazing to hear. We're not really privy to knowing about wow, how much goes into it. I just watched the final product. We don't know
Yeah.
how much time and energy and storytelling goes into creating something for us to watch at home. So
Yeah.
that's a really amazing insight.
Love that. So do you know that Back to Center exists because of Love My Roomie?
Oh no, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
So, Love My Roomie, I felt a social responsibility to do more than just release the series. I felt that we needed to have at least make a container available for people to process the themes that the
Right.
series covers and even their own memories or experiences that the series might
Mhm.
resurface.
Mm.
And we partnered on this event called Love Thyself Summit, which was called Love Thyself Summit because it was from Love My Roomie. And so, Love My Roomie and then Love Thyself. Like, how do we love ourselves? And we had conversations from course mental health, identity, Afro Latino identity. Men spoke about their mental health challenges and the taboo around being a man and needing any support when it comes to your mental health. Everything. It was a 2-day full summit. Yes, yes. It was
That's cool.
amazing. I just pulled together all these people and so we partnered on Soul Canvas, which was an in-person event, March 30th, 2024 at Emerson College, LA, who partnered with us. And those were conversations centering health and creatives. And then I got connected to PACE again as an alumni. And so I took all of the work of Love Thyself Summit and all of the work of Soul Canvas and created a new creative child named Back to Center.
Tell people about Soul Canvas because
Yes.
that's really interesting.
Yeah, so Soul Canvas, it's a community. The vision was and is big, and we've had to take a break on it, but it'll be back soon enough. And it is an inclusive community for anybody, though the conversations in this space were specifically independent film and mainstream Hollywood general market. And we weren't talking about how I became a star.
Yes.
We were talking about I became a star and this is how I was challenged to take care of my mental health. This is how I coped with the depression that came as a result of imposter syndrome or meeting new deadlines and demands because now I'm a sought after television writer. Like those were the conversations we were having. And we partnered with different organizations and we had screenings and we had a wellness room and we had a lab room where people did screenwriting courses and we had vendors and food and it was a good event. It's fun.
Awesome. I really want to bring to the audience today some tools about how people can come back to center, right? Like this
Mhm.
is getting grounded in yourself. Like you said, we're being true to yourself, being true to who you are, staying grounded when
Mhm.
all those storms kind of come up in life. So I really want to bring some like practical tools and tips that people can use to come back to center.
I love that. So back to center means exactly what it sounds like. Life does this to you. There's all this energy and back to center is about kind of wielding that energy and bringing it back here, heart space. And the way that I led everyone there, and facilitated that is just thinking back to a moment where you felt bliss. And usually, though not always, you will access that in some moment in childhood, just because childhood, for many, not all of us, is a moment, is a time where there's a lot of innocence, but that might not be childhood. That might be something that you've had to create for yourself as an adult. In any case, an example would be making a snow angel in my grandma's backyard while she was, cooking Christmas dinner, and I could smell it. And you just like, oh, I felt peace. I felt relaxed. And then grandma came out and brought me a cookie, and I sat on the porch and I ate the cookie and I stared at, I don't know, little squirrels running through the snow, like, or a deer, like whatever. But the point is, you're recreating in your body, because we know that our body stores it all, right? The trauma and the joy. And so you're recalling this experience. Your mind is so powerful, and yet it doesn't necessarily know that you're not there. And if you can really bring that in and recall that, what you're able to do is establish a baseline for yourself. We're in an immense age of information, so we're all many of us are privy to way more than we need to be, and way more than our nervous systems can handle. And so the point is to recall those moments, bring it close, or that moment, and bring it close to you. And that becomes your emotional baseline, because that time is actually leading you to, is your nervous system being relaxed, you feeling safe in your body, safe in your environment, safe in your choices, whatever those feelings are. And what it does is that it creates the baseline so that when you're stressed and you're distracted and you're saying yes to things that are not really serving you, nor are they necessary for you to say yes to. Sometimes things that we say yes to, things that aren't necessarily serving us, but maybe serve a paycheck, right? And so I want to keep nuance there, because there's a privilege to be like, well, that doesn't serve me, so I don't have to do it, But you get to recreate in your nervous system what it feels like to have that peace, so that when you say yes to things that are so far off of that baseline, wait a minute, that's taking me way too outside of myself. It's taking me too far from my center. So you begin to use no as not a weapon, but a complete option for protection of what is actually going to keep you safe, relaxed, and peaceful inside. Because we know that the best version of ourselves, right, is actualized when we are safe within ourselves, and when we're not being drawn and flung left and right into hustle culture, etc., comparing ourselves.
And what I want people to take away with this is, once you come back to your center, it's not like you're not going to get thrown from your center. You are. And so you are going to get stressed. You are going to overcommit to things. You are going to get thrown off. You're going to experience stressful situations.
Right.
It's going to get thrown off of your center, and then you keep directing back. And that's what I like about that, is that every time you get thrown off, you know yourself, like, okay, I'm slipping away from my habits. I'm kind of falling into those bad routines. I'm not feeling myself. You come back to your center. What is your center? And I think if I ask people that, I don't think people know what is their center. And so just this idea alone, not even just the amazing practice of it, but I think just the idea alone of that, what is my center? What is your center? Unique for every single person. I wasn't able to go to your event because I was on the Pleasantville campus and you were on the New York City, and I had class, and I was so upset that I couldn't go to the event. But when I heard that term, just the term back to center, I found myself using that term. I was like, what is my center? I was like, and even at the time, I didn't know about the concept, but I was like saying to myself, what is my center?
Yeah.
Some people kind of find it also like their values. Oh, these my values is my center. Or like, let's say some people like meditating practices, that's like kind of helps them feel grounded. So whatever is like for that person. I really like that. And one thing I want to say is, creatives, and I'm talking entrepreneurs, freelancers, thought leaders, content creators, artists, producers like yourself, actors, singers, dancers, anyone really in the creative space. And now the creative space is growing because so many people are finding space so that they can find their voice. And it's opening up so many opportunities for people. But there's very unique challenges that I think creatives face. What kind of challenges are you seeing that creatives have?
It's so funny because I just recorded an episode of my podcast, Producer's Blueprint, on this. It's forthcoming, full of tease. Is externalizing their power. The amount of information, the exposure to information and traumatic images, all of these things. People are feeling the shift in our world and people are in a place of real fear and survival and don't realize it. And when you are in that place, you are moving outside of your center. It is a state that is necessary for humans to have because that's your survival state and it has its place. But when you're always in that state, survival state is not about creative flow, right? That doesn't exist in survival state. You're trying to survive. You ain't got time for that. So you become creatively blocked. You become creatively doubtful of yourself. And we're also in an age where some people I notice are holding on to old ways of doing things, but the change is already happening. The change, by the time it reaches the media, by the time the media allows it to reach us, has already happened. So my concern with a lot of creatives is that the resistance to changing or the overstimulation of the changes is causing people to kind of lock down.
Yeah.
And if you lock within yourself, you're unable to lead with your heart space in any space, right? Or you trust less people, that impacts your work. It's just an entire, kind of domino effect. I see a lot of fear. And however, I think that because of the speed at which things are changing, especially technologically, if people don't at least understand what's changing, they might look up in less than 2 years and feel like their back is up against the wall and like they've missed out on a lot of opportunities in our society. And it's an interesting place to be in because though I'm totally for people going off the grid and living simpler lives, that is not most people's lived reality. So I think that people do need to meet the moment with what their lived reality is and what's the best version of their life they can create within this moment in history, this moment in time. It's opening up a lot of opportunities, but I think that, it's also generationally, right? Like I think I'm considered an older millennial. And so I'm in my late 30s. And so my peers, there's some people who are resistant to that, but to the changes and kind of want things to be the way that they are. And it's so funny to hear that because I'm like, I'm not a boomer, but I feel like I sound like a boomer. But that's the reality. And I think that's reality as for each generation. You can kind of get stuck in what feels nostalgic and what feels right to you. On the contrary, the playing field has leveled a lot, which is why I say if people are resistant to content creation, vertical content, or just diversifying the way that they're creative, right? So maybe you were always a filmmaker. Now you're like, you know what, let me write some plays, or you know what, let me direct. I used to be whatever that looks like for an individual. But if you're stuck in one way, you might corner yourself. And because of the speed at which technology and society is moving now, normally a year ago, 2 years ago, let's say, in 5 years, you might look up. I literally mean in a year and a half, you might look up and say, my gosh, I feel like I missed opportunities because I'm not being open-minded about what my creative expression looks like. And the more people are open, and also the younger people are, the more opportunities they'll have to succeed in the creative fields because they're not as attached to a certain way.
That makes sense. And I think also like what you were saying about, you had mentioned about imposter syndrome, and I thought that was interesting. I talked about that on my show before, but what really with imposter syndrome, that can happen to a lot of creatives because, they're entering a space where people are very renowned,
they feel like they're not good enough. They feel like I have been going through this in the silliest ways. They feel like they're not good enough. They feel like their experience is a joke or like a gimmick. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I've done this. But because you look at somebody and what happens in Stephanie, this ultimately comes from externalizing our power. Because you look at someone else and you think that success looks, feels a certain way, so that when you look in the mirror, you don't feel like you look like success, because maybe you're not driving a Bentley, maybe you don't live in a big loft, whatever it looks like to you, and followers, all of that stuff. So you don't see yourself because you are too attached to an idea of success. What I've been saying to people, be in your own story. And I tell myself this every day, mainly. Mourhia, be in your own story. It doesn't matter if someone got to where you want to be by the time they were 31. That's not your story. You're 38. And if you didn't get there by 38, that wasn't your story. That doesn't mean you won't get there by 41. But be in your story. Be like, we all have our own book. Be in your book, write your book. And what happens when we externalize an idea of how things should look, and we're not present within our bodies, when we don't have a center at all, we feel like we're in the wrong place.
Right. Well, I think what we're taught to externalize, but when we were younger, but I think that we're taught to externalize it. We're told these are certain fields that we're told about, and here's the majors that you can take in college. And we're not told anything really beyond that. So I think what comes with creatives is the challenge is that you're kind of forging your own path, and you're kind of finding a different path. It maybe you haven't seen someone, like you said, you didn't know anybody who was in that creative space. Really forge your own path. And so I think that a lot of creatives are doing that, where maybe they don't know anyone in their circle that is in that field. And so yeah, I think that we're taught to externalize it and to look at the success of others. I always say, what is your version of success?
Yes.
If someone thinks that is making a lot of money, there's nothing wrong with that. That's your version of success, but just don't put that onto someone else. Maybe someone else's is having a family. Like, don't judge someone else's version of success.
Yes.
And how you view yours. Everyone should have their own version of success.
Yes.
And so kind of like what you said about like defining your center, define your version of success.
Yes.
So I think, and it's different for everybody, especially for creatives. It's going to look different. It's going to be a different path. It's not always going to just be, a straight path. I think it's a very windy road. I never really know growing up what I wanted to do. Like, it was like, what do you want to do? Write in the yearbook what you want to do. I never really had that. I changed my idea like 10 times.
I understand that.
And then I was always good with my hands. I always liked to draw. I always like art. And so, and kind of art came to me in a different way. That's kind of what I would see myself doing. And then art came to me in a different way. This is, for me, my art.
Yeah.
Like podcasting. And maybe you know this as well. Podcasting is our art.
Yeah.
Sharing that with the world. So it's different. It's a different path.
It's a different path. And you never know. Like, I think that we're all given gifts.
Yeah.
To use them. And I know under circumstances where people are not able to use them. So I feel like when we're able, it's always a privilege that I feel like I must uphold. I feel like it's my duty in a way, and duty sounds blah, but I feel like it's my way of existing. It's my way of contributing to humanity, of helping to heal. And healing doesn't look like, when it comes to healing humanity, it doesn't look like healing the world in the ways that I think people would want. I think it looks like being able to activate at least one person to either heal their lineage, heal themselves, change the way they see other people. And then that's the ripple effect. I don't think it always has to be this big thing. And when we can accept that we actually have impact on every single person around us, whether or not they psychologically or emotionally can hold that impact doesn't mean we don't have it. All way more, we're connected as humans, and the trees know they're connected, and the bees know they're connected, and every other being knows. But humans would love to believe that, like, what you got going on over there really ain't got nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? When in reality, it does. We have to control what we expose ourselves to as well, because what's really happening is that the more we expose ourselves to, when we cannot contain it, and we don't have the tools to know how to transmute negative, sad, grieving energy, because we're all connected, we're absorbing things that we don't know what to do about. And when you're in your own story, you might not live in a world where you are able to, where people around you understand the stories that are happening, or even have the empathy to really dive in and care. That's why I think that there's this weird happy medium that exists between staying informed, but also even though there might be guilt, and I understand that when you have privilege, but we have to still be in our story, because if you at any way can just pick up your phone and read about a story and worry about anything harming you, about anything changing your morning, then you're in a place of privilege. And so how can you make impact from the safe place, relatively speaking, that you're in? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. And I think, I really think your discussion about like humans, we're more alike than we are different. It's crazy, always was crazy to me that people want to divide or look at differences. I never really understood that, but
yeah.
And so really when you're kind of coming back to your center, you'll find actually that most people want really the same thing. Even though it looks different how we all get to our center, it's kind of like we all kind of want the same things: peace, clarity, self-awareness, self-understanding. So really love I love the whole back to center concept. You should like put it on a billboard, because it's like the word back to center is like what people are needing right now. It's very needed today. Question that I ask everyone: what role has hope played in your journey, and how has that carried with you today?
I love that question. What role has hope played in my journey? My faith has helped me keep hope alive. Specifically, anything could have happened to me. Trigger warning. I not only survived, I walked away from what could have been a very catastrophic car accident, January 9th, 2023, which is why January 9th is, I call it my rebirth day. Looking back at moments where, I'm just so grateful to be here. And I have my moments where I forget the honor, the joy, the privilege of being alive, and being able to live out my life in this way. And so the hope that I have is really tied to my faith in the Lord. It's really literally what's keeping me smiling when I can't smile. I'm not always able to smile. And hope in people like you reaching out to me. This is the other side of things. Like, you go work, and you do wonder, does anybody even paying attention? But I told myself, no matter how many people like or comment or follow the thing you've got to do is be consistent. Because I've turned my back on a lot of creative projects, believe it or not, my own, never other people. I never want to disappoint other people, but I'll turn my back on myself because I feel like, nobody cares. And I'll go believe in somebody else. When it comes to me, I'll be like, nobody really cares to see that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for sharing that. I actually did listen to your podcast episode where you really went into depth, and
okay.
I can't imagine like how hard that is for you to share, because I mean, the way that you had shared it, I was like thinking to myself, like, I don't know how you have the strength to even share that, because it's just hard to share. The part that if anyone goes and listens to it and they listen, maybe if they're not able to even hear the beginning, because it is so hard to hear about your experience. I mean, I just can't even believe that you went through that. But if they listen to the end, even the hope that you give to people, every person is here for a purpose. I think that comes back to the back to center, because we all are here for a purpose, and there are going to be days where we like question that purpose. And so come back to your center, because you are here for a purpose. And everyone listening, like, there's so many people right now who are disconnected, who are feeling lonely, who are feeling just really overwhelmed with everything going on. And I think that your reminder to people and sharing your purpose and your journey with people is very inspiring to people like me, and I know so many others. So thank you so much for sharing that. And also, like what you said about like believing in others, that is so, believing in others, it's easier to believe in others sometimes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's my jam. I love believing in others.
Even where you said so many projects, like, wait, I have that pile on my desk too of like projects that I have and like ideas that are just not released. And I know a lot of people have that. It's easy to put that faith in others, but we have to turn to ourselves and believe in ourselves too.
Absolutely.
So that's so important. So important. And so I really want to shift now. I know that we really got into it in the creative world. What I really love about your story, you've been on all sides of the field. You've been a producer, you've been an actress, you've been a director, and really now you've been a mentor, you've been a lecturer, a professor, and a content creator. Like, now you're giving back to the creatives, and so you're like, here's everything I learned. I want to give back, and I love when people do that. And it's like, it's a real testament to who you are and like really wanting to give back. You're the creative extraordinaire. That's the best way that I can describe it. And so you released recently Plan Like a Pro Blueprint. So I want to talk about that. I mean, this is like amazing because you've written films and now you're writing workbooks and blueprints.
Yeah. The Plan Like a Pro Blueprint is actually, so speaking of imposter syndrome, I released it on January 9th, 2025. And I did like 3 promos for it and I never said another thing. So I just released it and never said anything. And I had a whole website for it. Like I had websites with workshops and all this stuff. And I got distracted and life happened last year. And last year took a toll. It went in a different direction than I thought. It became a year where a lot had to fall apart in order to rebuild me. And so then at the end of last year, right as my quarter at Santa Clara teaching Black theater was wrapping up, I started to obviously be like, oh, what's next? Because man, teaching, I was like all consuming, so rewarding, but all consuming. And so when I was coming up for air, it was like, oh, and I realized at the top of this year, end of last year, I had all of the website that I had built out. I mean, I forgot about a lot of this stuff. I really did. And then the workbook was about 50, 60 pages, and I've grown a lot. And I also felt like the workbook was a little bit rushed as well. And so I expanded it, and now it's 111 page.
I actually love the part where you had said you were like 60 pages, then it was 80 pages, then I needed to add more. I can relate to that, where it's like you just want to keep pouring into it.
I just wanted to keep pouring. And my goal, Stephanie, I actually put this on Threads yesterday, and in a long thread and sub-thread, is that I am going to do everything I can to teach everything I can about producing, especially independent producing, so that I can empower my new team of producers. And I say that because I want people to literally understand gatekeeping is not beneficial to me, because I'm ready to make a pivot in 2027, which will be my 40th year. I'm ready to make a pivot into focusing on directing again, already making a pivot into focusing on acting. And that's not to say I won't produce, but it won't be my driver. I don't think. I say that and then someone asks me to produce something and I'm producing something else, because I'm a great producer. I want to empower other people to be great producers. Awesome. We need fresh talent, fresh faces, and people with fresh new takes. And I think that all I can do is show somebody my blueprint, and then when they add their life experience to it, it'll expand into a blueprint that's loosely inspired by Mourhia's. You know what I mean? The Plan Like a Pro Blueprint is thorough as I could make it for $27. And it is actually quite thorough. That I have templates in there, press outreach templates, sponsorship email templates. Of course, there is a little bit of the Back to Center playlist QR code is in there for people who want to listen to some music as they vibe out. But ultimately, the idea is that people, as they work through the workbook, are able to take time to really think about their project holistically, each project. Because what happens is when you get a lot of projects are also made out of survival mode. When you're giving me network and studio money to do that, cool. But if I'm making an independent project, I personally am just in a place in my career where like there's got to be heart. If you're not being compensated to and like I've got to have heart.
You have to love what you're doing.
Absolutely. And with that, keeping heart intact, I think is process. And this is what the Plan Like a Pro Blueprint is. And so I guess this is a tease. I'm releasing a companion podcast. Oh. Yes, Producer's Blueprint podcast. The Producer's Blueprint podcast will drop on Thursday, April 9th on my YouTube.
It's amazing.
Yes, and each episode is about 11 to 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. It's supposed to be about 11. I talk a lot, sometimes about 15 minutes, I think. I'm in post right now. I just filmed 4 episodes last week. And I'll be talking to everyone, loosely based on the chapters. If you have the Plan Like a Pro Blueprint, it'll be a very useful guide, especially if you're someone who, reading is kind of not like your preferred form of ingesting information, then I'm walking you kind of through it loosely. And if you're someone who doesn't have it, then it's still of value to you. Because I'm not like, if you don't have the book, you can't know these things. You know what I mean? It's a companion. So it's not an audiobook, but it is a companion piece. So I'm really excited about that.
It's like they can have the blueprint and then they can listen to the podcast.
I'm starting to launch live workshops again. So Thursday, April 16th is when my first workshop, it's actually a lab. It's a lab. It's called Make It Anyway Lab. I'm saying workshop, but it's really a lab because you're not just like being told how to do something, and we're going to take time, whoever's in the class and the cohort, and we're going to work through activities and tasks that's also inspired by the Plan Like a Pro blueprint. So that's for people who want to do deeper work and who want me to do that work alongside them. There's so many different learning styles. So I'm adapting my teaching style as much as possible to adhere. The people who just like, leave me alone, give me the book. They have it. The people who are like, I don't want to read this. Can you just tell me what am I supposed to put here? Cool. And the people who are like, no, Mourhia, I want you to talk me through this. I just want to double check. That's what the labs are for. And so there'll be 5 labs starting April 19th, weekly on Thursdays. And I'm really looking forward to that. So there's some fun things launching around the Producer's Blueprint ecosystem in April.
Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. And it's like you're coaching them through it, right?
Exactly. We're working. It's not page by page, but the labs are inspired by the workbook, and what they do is it's the moment to do the deeper thinking. So for those people who prefer to work alongside someone or other people, then there's that. I do, however, also have a bonus offering for people who like really just want to work with me one-on-one through the blueprint, and through their process, they can do that as well. So I think I've covered the bases as much as I can for people, for the different learning styles and preferred working style. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That is so exciting. And congratulations on releasing that soon.
Thank you.
That's really exciting. And so what do people for the labs, where do they sign up for that?
I will provide you with that link. Okay. Yeah, they'll be able to it'll be a website, just like the Producer's Blueprint, and they'll be able to sign up. You can sign up for a bundle, or you can sign up for every lab individually. The labs are priced at $29 each. Wanted to keep them affordable, and they run 90 minutes each lab, and there's replays. So if you can't make it live, you're able to join the replay. And of course, like there's on my dashboard that I use, people can comment and I'll interact with the comments as well.
That's wonderful. That's awesome to hear. And like my one question was, what is it about storytelling that keeps drawing you in? Because it's like you keep wanting to give to it, you keep giving to it. And
I just want to understand people. I want to understand the world. The way I perceive the world is ever evolving, and I know that it will always ebb and flow. And so I'm drawn to storytelling because I think in all of us in different ways. I really think every single person has it. Some of us choose not to engage with it. Some of us choose to engage with it heavily. For me, I'm somebody who engages with it full time, and it's just why I'm here. I have and I kind of alluded to this or said this in a different way earlier. If I'm not meant to do it, then why is it on my heart? Why does it keep me up at night? Why does it get me excited? Like if I'm not meant to do it.
Like I feel.
Yeah. So part of the answer, as trivial as this might be, is because I'm meant to, because I can't stop doing it. Because when I was a little girl, I had imaginary friends. Because when I was a little girl, I would write books and, create characters. I'm from the Silicon Valley, so I was exposed to a lot of technology early on. And so older HP was like a pink heavy laptop. It was like square and heavy, and I would be typing on that, and telling stories, and I just would escape into storytelling.
It's like a creative escape. Yeah,
it's a creative escape, but it's also just like the way that I'm built. And like I said, it is the way that I express my purpose. My purpose is connected to helping people see themselves, to helping people heal once they see themselves, to connecting people with one another and building community, hoping to make the people around me feel less lonely, not necessarily because of me, but because maybe I know somebody who has a solution for a problem they have. You need an editor. Oh, I know someone. I love connecting people. And so storytelling is the vehicle by which I walk out my purpose.
Oh, that's amazing. You're like the guy.
Yeah, but if I were in finance, I would probably still, it would look different. It would look like referrals, right? Like I would like, oh, you have this, you need an investor for this. I have the perfect person. It would be different, but I'm walking this out via storytelling.
That's amazing. And that's like your center.
That's my center.
That's awesome. Also, wait, you'd be a good matchmaker.
I was told that 2 weeks ago, but it had to be the first time I was ever told that.
Yeah, you would.
Would I? Yeah, maybe. I am a good, I guess, when it comes to friendships and especially professional relationships, I do matchmake people. Yeah. I build people's teams with that. Like, you need this person, meet this person, and people carry on and continue to work with each other. So I guess I'm already kind of a matchmaker.
Yeah, that's cool.
Thank you, Stephanie.
This has been awesome. Yeah. And also, anyone listening who's a PACE alum, drop your name and tell us what year you were. Tell us what year you graduated.
Yes, I graduated in 2016, MFA. So I attended the Actor Studio Drama School at Pace University, and Pace welcomed me back a year and a half ago now, because that was September 2024. Really yeah, and that was an amazing experience. I had not been back to campus since maybe at 2017. Yeah, it was just, I have fond memories of those hallways of, downtown Manhattan. Like, I just have fond memories of all the things that encompass my 9 years in New York that only could happen because I got into Pace, the Actor Studio Drama School at Pace. So
yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like the community at Pace, like, even if I see someone online and I'm like, Pace, okay, I'm reaching out. It's like a connection, like, even if you don't know them, it's like, okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mourhia. This has been great.
Stephanie.
Thank you so much. And everyone, go listen to the Inside Out podcast. Yes. I'll have everything linked down below. So thank you so much and take care.
Thank you. Take care.